Owen Hart was a Canadian professional wrestler who is seen by many as one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. And in this story we're about to tell, he's very important to it, for all the wrong reasons. Owen worked all over the world, most notably Stampede in his native Canada, as well as the WWF or the WWE. He is of course a member of the famous Hart wrestling family, which includes the likes of Bret Hart, as well as current WWE mainstay, Natalya. Their father, Stu Hart, trained the likes of Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Roddy Piper, the British Bulldogs, Masahiro Chono, Edge, Ken Shamrock, Nikolai Volkov, and Jesse Ventura. But, back to Owen, in high school and college he was a legit amateur wrestler, and following this amateur career, he began his tenure in professional wrestling. He wrestled for Stampede, which was Stu's promotion, and was named PWI's 1987 Rookie of the Year. During 1988, he ended up going to Japan and wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And in all honesty, he had quite a few bangers. I recommend you go and check out some of his New Japan work if you haven't already. It's pretty good. But during this run, he became the first non-Japanese wrestler to win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. It was a short reign, but off the back of this, as well as his Stampede work, he landed with Vince McMahon in the WWF for a short little tenure as the Blue Blazer, which will be important later, unfortunately. And he even got on the WrestleMania 5 card against Ted DiBiase. Not a bad run in all honesty. And after this DiBiase match, he went on to work all over the world again, including for Vince's biggest rivals later on, WCW. However, that little touring period ended in '91, and he was almost immediately back with Vince. Owen then formed a team with Jim Neidhart that would be known as the New Foundation. And we'll skip a little bit here because I'm pretty sure most of you who are watching this video are already familiar with Owen and his work against his brother Bret and the majority of his later WWE tenure. Truly phenomenal, obviously. And if you aren't already in tune with his King of the Ring run and his matches against Bret, you just kinda gotta experience them for yourself. It's like a S-tier experience, you gotta do it your own self, gang. He then worked a little bit in the tag division again, reformed his bond with Bret, was a part of the Hart Foundation, was a part of that feud against Shawn, feuded with Stone Cold, hurt his neck, had a t-shirt out there that said Owen 316, I just broke your neck. Yeah. And all the while this was going on, Bret was getting screwed by either Vince or himself. You make your take on that one, OG. Owen then embarked on a weird but good run with the Nation of Domination as the Black Hearts. It was actually pretty alright, and I tend to forget it ever happened, although you could probably forgive me for that, seeing as I was not alive for it, and I didn't walk with the dinosaurs in 1998. Anywho, following his stint as the Blackheart, he ended up teaming a little bit with JEFF space JARRETT. Jeff Jarrett, obviously. And they didn't do anything spectacular that I can recall, but he then pulled a "oh my god, I'm leaving" thing after injuring Dan Severn. However, this was all a pyramid scheme, he's a filthy schemer or whatever, and he came back as the Blue Blazer. This tragically is where we'll end off, as a little later on, if you're unfamiliar with the situation, you'll see why. Hello, welcome back to the channel. We are once again back in action. I hope each and every one of you are having an absolutely blessed day. You more than likely won't be after this video, because I'm a terrible person, obviously. But today we are going to be talking about the Over the Edge 1999 pay-per-view that the WWF hosted. Yeah, this one's a tough one, for sure. But hopefully you can enjoy this video a little bit. And if you do, I would appreciate it if you like the video. I would say subscribe, but we'll see if I earn that by the end of the video, okay? You should 100% join the Discord though, because that's where every single cool person in the history of the word cool is, so yeah, join that. But anywho, let's go ahead and let's dive into the WWF Over the Edge 1999 pay-per-view. Oh baby, this one is a pure display of soulless corporate entanglements, I tell you what. However, we must discuss the card before we get too crazy up in this bitch, and it hailed from the Kemper Arena in the land of Kermit the Quarterback, Kansas City. And of course, to say it like the 3 millionth time already, the WWF held their Over the Edge 1999 event. At first glance, depending on how you look at it, this card is either small town bias, as Peyton would say, or small town hate. It was a show that had quite a bit of star power, featuring the likes of Stone Cold, The Undertaker, Triple H, The Rock, Mankind, and who can forget, Deborah. There were quite a few average Attitude Era matches on this card, and you could definitely tell the era we were in. The show's opener was a tag team match, which included Kane and X-Pac against D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry. In a, yeah, that happened kind of match. And the second match on the card was for the Hardcore Championship between Al Snow and Hardcore Holly. In a, again, yeah, that kind of happened match. The show also included Nicole Bass and Val Venus versus Jeff Jarrett and Deborah, Billy Gunn versus Road Dogg. Hey, the Mega Powers I mean, the New Age Outlaws. The Union versus the Ministry. Remember the Union? Hogan doesn't. The Rock versus Triple H. And of course, the very Attitude Era-esque main event of Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Undertaker. And if you're unaware of the incident that took place at this event, you're probably wondering what the hell does Owen Hart have to do with all this? And, well, I'll tell you. Owen was supposed to take on the Godfather for the WWF Intercontinental Championship in the third match on the card. Until the worst possible thing that could have ever happened. Owen, while under his Blue Blazer persona, ended up falling from a very, very high distance. That very high distance in question was over 70 feet in the air, and he landed chest first on the turnbuckle and top rope. Or ring post, I don't really know which one. It's said that Owen's final words while falling were "look out," which is truly heartbreaking. Bret Hart has gone on record to say that during the time it happened, he was on a plane and could feel something overcoming him, and he felt as though something terrible had happened. Little did he know, the worst thing that could have ever fucking happened. And part of me, as well as a lot of other people, feel as though this was due to negligence on the part of the people that were meant to handle the entrance. It's a risky ass entrance. Wouldn't you attempt to make sure that everything was perfect? Like, that's common sense, right? I don't know, man. This really just makes me extremely angry going back and going over it. And there's plenty of people that go extremely in-depth on this topic. This video isn't specifically about Owen, so I'll leave some links in the description to videos that go completely in-depth on just the accident. But anywho, speaking of negligence and corporate soulless behavior, the event continued. I for one personally see this as a textbook definition of soulless. I think people would have understood if you called the event there. You could have just come back at a later date for another pay-per-view or something and given them more if you were worried about them being angry about stopping the show. Going back and opening the broadcast up, you are met with a tribute to Owen Hart. Watching this broadcast, you are also met with an absolutely chilling announcement from Jim Ross that never gets easier to watch or hear when he's announcing the death of Owen. To attempt to quote Jim here in Kansas City, tragedy fell on the World Wrestling Federation and all of us. Owen Hart was set to make an entrance from the ceiling, and he fell from the ceiling. And I have the unfortunate responsibility to let everyone know that Owen Hart has died. Owen Hart has tragically died from the accident here tonight. Seeing as JR had to get himself together to make this statement on such short notice shows how much of a professional and treasure he is. He's also reflected on this incident in a video or two, and it really shows how loved Owen was. Jim and Jerry saw it, and they saw it in full. And it's just so sad. And this was extra chilling, seeing as Jerry Lawler was serious, and he was literally never serious in his character at the time. It makes it all the more eerie. And to add another factoid on you, Jim didn't even know what the update on Owen was until about like 20 seconds before having to make the announcement. And you know, obviously, the rest of the card's talent was shook, seeing as their coworker just fucking died. And they had to go on under the show must go on principle. And this wasn't just any coworker either. It was someone who was very well loved backstage. And it also really hurt the crowd, and I mean, yeah, that makes sense. They just witnessed somebody die. Even while not knowing explicitly that he did die, like, they probably made their speculations about it. And it's honestly horrible to think about, especially seeing Jim Ross's reflection on this situation. And I'll give a link to Jim's reflection in the description if you like to watch it for yourself. I still personally think to this day it was a bad call to keep this show going. And the main event was proof it shouldn't have kept going, dog. The WWF Championship was defended by Stone Cold Steve Austin against The Undertaker in the most Attitude Era main events of all time, with Shane McMahon as the special guest referee. It was supposed to be both Shane and Vince, but earlier on in the night, Vince was taken out by Shane. So, instead, at the beginning of the match, notorious consent respecter Pat Patterson is also a special guest ref in this. Never mind. The Undertaker kind of, murdered him. But, yeah, this match also had a stipulation where Austin's not allowed to hit Shane. And now, I'm not gonna sit here and act like this was the shits, nor will I act like if the tragedy had never happened, would it have been an all-time clinic. because the two never had chemistry like that to begin with, despite being two of the WWF's biggest stars at the time. But I will say that the two were very clearly shaken because of the events that had taken place earlier on the night. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a live reaction here as I watch the main events, and especially the entrances. And The Undertaker's entrance immediately just felt off. And that stare at the turnbuckle that Taker gave before he started staring at Pat Patterson, he obviously wasn't in like a great state. But that Austin pop, it'll always happen no matter the circumstance. But dog, Taker staring at Austin coming out actually broke my heart. And this is coming from a real street thug, you feel me? I'm a law-abiding citizen. But like, both are obviously not in any mental state to compete. And they both look like they're holding back tears the entire match. It really is a hard watch at the beginning. The entire vibe of this match just seems off. Something just is different in the way they're working. But the match starts off with some Attitude Era brawling until Austin gets knocked to the floor. Taker repeatedly knocks Austin off the apron a couple of times, and then Austin gets some get back, giving Taker a hangman over the top rope. Austin then hits like a random ass top rope clothesline, which was surely something. I will say the corner spot with the middle fingers to Shane was a nice touch, and in all honesty, it isn't this bad to start off like in-ring quality wise. And Taker staring off at the crowd while Austin is in the corner just felt weird, and I kind of feel dirty watching this. It doesn't seem right. Everything had a little less intensity than it would usually have, but the story the match is trying to tell is that both guys want to work the legs and take out the legs of one another, and work the leg and all that leg jazz. Can I find another way to say it? Shane is doing his stereotypical heel referee tactics where he's trying to pull Undertaker out of Austin's way, or trying to pull the rope closer to Taker, and it's honestly kind of good work by the guy. Can't knock it. They continue and continue to work each other's legs, and oh hey, Paul Bearer took a bump. He got his money's worth tonight, huh? They're doing some typical Attitude Era outside brawling, even some crowd brawling, and that's just the era we're in, oos. Great bump taken by Austin over the barricade back onto the ringside area, and he almost hurt himself. And there was this stairs knee bump that was kind of creative. I don't think I've ever seen it before. Taker had moved the stairs, put Austin's leg around the post under the ring, or knee. I don't know what I'm talking about, but anyways, he drove the stairs into his knee against the post. I liked it. I kind of popped for it. But this just feels like an above average TV main event, and they do some Attitude Era brawling up the ramp and to the set. Taker then punches the alleged glass, then gets thrown into another thing of alleged glass. And they're doing more crowd brawling, but their legs seem fine. Then when they finally get back into the ring, Shane fakes Austin out of the 3 count. Austin finna touch Shane. Shane's facial expressions are golden. Meanwhile, Bearer takes a chair. I don't know what I'm talking about. And he finna hit Austin, but Austin kicks him. Ref bump because Austin throws Taker into Shane. Nasty unprotected chair shot to the head. And now we're sitting here doing nothing. Then the big Gerald Briscoe comes out to count the pin, but Taker kicks out. That's great suspense. Taker then murders Briscoe the same way he murdered Patterson. And there's a triple down with the 2 competitors and Shane. And here comes Vincent Kennedy McMahon, who has a few allegations at this point in his life. And he sure is taking his sweet little time limping down there, huh? And then there's another double down. And Shane stops Vince from counting in Austin 3. And then Shane pushes Vince into Austin. And Taker, I guess, gets like a schoolboy on Austin. And it was a screw job finish that looked like absolute shit. And there you have it. The Undertaker is the WWF champion and has defeated Stone Cold Steve Austin. A world title change in a small town. Wish we had more of those. I know we just got one, but wish we had a little more of those. Alright, so that was surely a main event. And I'm once again not going to drag on the performances, and it was clear that it wasn't either guy's best. But this does show the true professionalism from the workers involved. Being able to compete even to that level, knowing the amount of distress they must have been in, should be commended. It really was sad watching the facial expressions in this match because it was clearly different. And the vibe was off and everything felt not right, which I mean, obviously, given the context. And this is one of those matches you obviously have to look at while placing an asterisk on it. and you obviously can't rate it. And you gotta give credit to Austin and Taker for being able to do as well as they did. And it was just one of those shows. It was just one of those shows and one of those matches. And again, I cannot stress this enough. I know I've said it like 4 million times, but the facial expressions and the body language before the match tell a story worth 10 million words. All in all, Over the Edge 1999 will be looked at as one of, if not the most tragic events in pro wrestling history. Owen Hart's memory will forever live on as not only one of the most gifted pros of a generation, as well as all time, but also one of the best people to ever enter the business. Rest in peace, Owen Hart. And I want to close this video out by saying I appreciate you guys for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Once again, as I said earlier, if you enjoyed the video and if I earned it, I would appreciate it if you left a like on the video, as well as subscribe to the channel. You know, over on this side, we trying to take over the world, so every interaction helps. I once again want to plug the Discord server because we're building a pretty damn cool community over there. We're a pretty balanced community over there. We talk about like wrestling, sports, and really just anything. Once again, everybody that's in there is the coolest human being to ever walk planet Earth, so why wouldn't you want to be surrounded with the coolest people ever, you know? So join the Discord server. But yeah, I believe that's all I've got to say. I appreciate you guys for taking time out of your day again to watch this video. Y'all stay safe. God bless.